Oh, y'all got here quick. Y'all scared me. Hold on, y'all. Okay, so you can see the title of the video. Hey, everybody. Hey, Shamar. Hey, Phyllis. Hey, Moth Mama. Hi, Isaiah. Um, Today I'm going to be talking about my journey. Oh, thank you, Phyllis. I want y'all to catch these dramatic. Can you see them? Can you see these lashes? I put the dramatic lashes on today, y'all. Um, if you see the title of the video, I'm going to be talking about my journey with sickle cell disease. So, first, I'm going to tell you what exactly sickle cell anemia is. So, sickle cell anemia, by a medical definition, is a group of disorders that causes red blood cells to become misshapen and break down. With sickle cell disease, an inherited group of disorders, red blood cells contort into a sickle shape. The cells die early, leaving a shortage of healthy red blood cells, which causes anemia and can block blood flow, causing pain or a sickle cell crisis. Now, sickle cell is an inherited blood disorder that is definitely related to your mother and father. So, one of your parents had to have at least carried the trait for you to either carry the trait or have the disease. So, what I have is the trait. It is sickle cell AS, which is one normal gene. So, half of my blood is normal, and the other half is the sickle cell. So, I'm blessed that the normal blood that I have keeps me from having the full blown disease, but does not keep me from some of the things that, are caused by this disease, like anemia and high blood pressure. I mean, a lot of the other underlying conditions that I have are probably related to sickle cell trait or sickle cell anemia or whatever, because I do have chronic anemia. And chronic anemia means no matter how much iron you take or what you do, your blood is not going to build itself back up to the normal levels that they have for, people my age, women my age, women of color. They have certain standards that you should meet across the board, and my blood will never meet those standards. So, how did I get this disease? Now, for those of you that know me, I am adopted, and my father was killed when I was 2 years old. So my mother, of course, because my father was not here to defend himself, has blamed my father. After my father's death, my mother went on to have four more children. None of those children have the trait or anything. So I am assuming, and that's all I can do, because my mother also refused to have genetic testing. So we couldn't test her to see if she had the trait because she refused. And none of my other brothers have the trait. If they do, they wouldn't tell me because we're not that close. We have different fathers, and it's just a crazy story. So I don't know. Um, I am blessed to say that the trait did stop with me because my husband that I have children with, he didn't have the trait, and I did not pass it on to my kids. Neither of my children have it. Now, when I was born in 1964, they were not testing people for sickle cell. It just was not a norm. So black people just out here with sickle cell and not really finding out until they were sick. I didn't find out I even had the trait until I was 21 years old and pregnant with my first child. This how they do black people. I had no idea. And I don't even think my mother knew. I don't think anybody knew that I had had the trait all of my life. Now, I'm going to go back to what it was like for me growing up, not knowing I had the trait or anything. So, as a child, I would have, I had asthma, but I would get sick really easy. I had really, really bad pains in my legs and stuff. I was tired a lot easier than other kids. Like I would run or whatever and get extremely tired to the point where when I got in junior high school, I flunked gym because the teacher said that I was lazy and I didn't want to participate with the rest of the kids. And it wasn't that I was lazy, it was that I was really having a hard time keeping up with the other kids. They didn't know at the time that I had sickle cell, and you can literally die from sickle cell trait if you overexert yourself. There have been football players with sickle cell trait who have died on the field, and they didn't figure out until after that it was caused by like overexertion. Like people with sickle cell trait, we can get, dehydrated like that. And if you overexert yourself, you can die. So of course my teacher, she didn't know, we didn't know, my mama didn't know. I flunked gym. I still want to cuss her out and be like, stupid, I had sickle cell this whole time and you flunked me because you said I was lazy, and I was really trying to tell you that it wasn't that I was lazy. It was just that every time I would overexert myself, I would get super tired. Sometimes it would feel like I was going to pass out. And I didn't know how to explain that to my parent, to my mom at the time. So, flash up, let's go forward from junior high school to high school. I had problems in gym in high school also. So, let's just keep going until I got pregnant the first time. That was when I found out that I had um, sickle cell trait. And at the time, they said, "Oh, you have sickle cell traits. You don't, have the disease. You don't have to worry about it. It's not going to affect you in any way." So I'm thinking, you know, because a medical doctor had told me that, I don't. This is something that I don't have to worry about. I really felt like this was something that I didn't have to worry about. So flash forward, I had my first child at 22, and then I had another child at 24. The second child I hemorrhaged to the point where I almost passed away. But they saved me, but they didn't give me any blood because they didn't know, you know, how serious my situation was. They just felt, oh, she's young. She's only 24 years old. She can make her own blood because we make blood. Normal people make blood every 100 and something days. Your body is constantly making blood, but not me because I had sickle cell trait. So from 20 to 40 something, I battled anemia because none of the hospitals that I went to thought it was serious enough to send me to a hematologist to see what was going on with my blood. They just kept giving me iron pills, which didn't do anything for me because my body was not even storing the iron. So I would take iron pills and just poop them out. My body wasn't even holding on to the iron like it should. Not until I was in my 40s did I get referred to a hematologist who really went through my chart and looked at everything, decided to let me have a special test to see how much of the sickle cell was actually like what the percentage of the bad gene did I have. Come to find out that I was basically a 50-50 split. So I had 50% hemoglobin A and 50% hemoglobin S, which put me in a very bad position. When that doctor looked at my chart and went through everything, he immediately put me on an iron infusion where I would have to go to the hospital, get an infusion of iron, like get the iron directly put into my vein, and then take these shots in my belly to make sure that my body held on to the iron to try to help build up my blood. After that situation, I had to end up having a blood transfusion. I had to have 3 pints of blood in one day. This is all from sickle cell trait. There is not enough research to, because a lot of doctors still feel like people with sickle cell trait don't have any problems. You don't have the full disease, so you don't have any problems. Now, I'm definitely not taking away from what people who have the full disease go through. I can't say what they go through. I would have to have someone on here who has the full disease for them to be able to say everything that they go through. I know it is a very difficult disease. I lost a friend in right after high school. She had sickle cell disease. She had the full disease. She would be gone from school for months. She would come back, like she would get so sick. She would be in the hospital for like a month or two, or, whatever. She was very thin, very frail looking. A lot of people with sickle cell never really gained a lot of weight. When I was born, I was 4 pounds and 8 ounces. I stayed very, very small until maybe around the 6th grade is when I finally started to gain weight. So my birth weight was very low. So From sickle cell trait, I have chronic anemia, and my high blood pressure, they feel, is directly linked to the fact that my blood is not circulating and building itself back up the way that it should. There are a few famous people with sickle cell. Now they have Lorenz Tate listed, and I don't know if they have him listed because him and his brother have a foundation where they do raise money for sickle cell. So I'm not really sure if he has the actual disease or if someone in his family has the trait. But we all know that T-Boz from, what is it, TLC? Yeah, T-Boz um, has the full disease, and there have been many times while they were on tour, she would have to be put in the hospital. And I know that she had some very, very serious complications. And I have had a few complications myself that were extremely serious. And I have been very blessed that they were not, as bad as some other people. I have had two strokes, two mild strokes. And it is very common for people with sickle cell disease to have strokes. It is common for babies with sickle cell disease to have strokes because what happens is those sickle cells get together, bunch up in your brain, and it takes them a minute to dissolve. And it only takes like a millisecond for you to get a clot in your brain and you have a stroke. So I have had two TIAs. I haven't had one in, I think, since 2016, or I think 2016 or 17 was the last time that I had one. And I have been very blessed that I have not had any major lasting results from that. But I do think that they have affected my memory. Like they never affected my motor skills or anything like that. But I do believe that they have affected my memory. So anytime that something happens to me and I have to go into the hospital, like the day before yesterday, I had to go in and get my blood pressure checked because my blood pressure was high. I had to have a CT scan, and it's very scary for me at this point now to have a CT scan because I'm always scared that they're going to look at the CT scan and be like, you had another stroke. I mean, it wasn't, but I mean, it's scary. It really is. Like, this is a really scary disease, and the fact that I didn't even understand how serious this disease was until I was an adult is just mind-boggling. And I really believe because this disease basically at one point in time only affected African American people. You don't hear about it because it only affects people of color. You're only hearing more about it now because, more African American men are, having sex with other races. So now you get little white kids that have this disease. So, of course, it's going to, start getting more recognition. Let's see, who else do I have on here? So Paul Williams from the Temptations, he passed away with sickle cell. Prodigy from Mobb Deep, he passed away from sickle cell. Well, you don't pass away from sickle cell, you pass away from complications of the disease. It can be stroke, heart attack, pneumonia, because people sickle cell have very high chances of getting pneumonia because the sickle cell does attack your lungs also. So it can be a wide range of things that can kill you from this disease, but it's all because you went into the hospital because you had sickle cell, and then all these other things happen, and then you end up passing away. So Miles Davis, I didn't even know that Miles Davis had sickle cell until I looked up like celebrities that had sickle cell, and someone named San Antonio Holmes, who was a football player. And there have been a lot of cases of college football players just passing away on the field, and people in the military who, for some reason, it doesn't get caught while they are doing the military physical, and they actually get into the military and get into that rigorous training and then die in the military because they didn't know that they had sickle cell trait. So um, I had been in some, and this is the sad thing. I have been in some sickle cell groups on Facebook, but you will not believe how mean spirited people are. Like, I have people in the sickle cell group be like, "Ain't nothing going on with you. You don't even have the full disease. You just have the trait." Now they have sickle cell disease, mad at me and telling me nothing is going on with you. You just have the trait. You don't even have the full blown disease. That's like somebody telling somebody with lung cancer, "Oh, you don't even have cancer because you don't have brain cancer. You don't know what it's like. I got brain cancer. So your cancer is not even relevant." That's what I went through in the sickle cell Facebook group. So I ended up getting out of those groups and stuff because the people in there are really, a lot of the people in there were really toxic, and I just couldn't deal with them. And I do, I do understand that if me just having the trait and I go through, the pain crises and stuff that I go through, I can imagine what it's like to have the real disease. I want to touch on this also. What it's like being an African American person and having a disease that requires pain management. I don't know what it is with these white doctors that don't want to give us any pain medicine. I don't know why they think that our pain tolerance is so different from theirs. I went to the hospital one time because I was in a pain crisis. And instead of the doctor giving me my pain medication, because the fact that I have sickle cell trait and I do have pain crisis is in my chart. All they had to do was look on the in the computer, and you could see, yeah, she's got sickle cell. It's clear as day right there on my chart because the hematologist wanted to make sure that I didn't have any problems if I had to go to emergency, if I couldn't handle my pain at home. So I get to the emergency. Of course, it's a white doctor, and he's questioning the fact that, well, if you don't have the disease, then why are you having pain? Maybe your pain is something else. Now, mind you, it's a Becky in the bed next to me who's telling the doctor that she had, been throwing up and her stomach was hurting from her throwing up. And the doctor asked her if she wanted some morphine. And here I am sitting there with sickle cell, a diagnosis from a hematologist, and he's questioning me. That's the kind of stuff that I've had to go through. I have went to pain management doctors, And, I know that doctors now have to ask you, have you ever had, any problems with illicit, is it illicit? I don't know, child. Street drugs like cocaine or marijuana or whatever. I do understand that. But if I tell you no, then why do you want to do a drug test on me? And the doctor was like, oh, well, it's a standard procedure that we do a drug test before we give you a prescription for any pain meds. I mean, just really blatantly racist things have happened to me just because I have a disease that I got from one of my parents. So that's it, guys. Today is sickle cell awareness, and I just really wanted to bring awareness to this disease and show you guys how serious this is, because a lot of people have never even heard of sickle cell. They have no idea what sickle cell anemia is and what people who have sickle cell go through, because it's basically predominantly a black disease, and who cares about black people? You should have had some good blood instead of getting that janky blood from one of your parents. That's basically how um, we're treated. When I found out I had this disease, and I asked my mom, my real mother, my biological mother, and I'm adopted, so she didn't raise me. And, I asked her about it, and she kind of had an attitude with me and kind of like, didn't want to talk about it. And that kind of made me feel like, you guilty? Do you, if you have it, just tell me you have it. I can deal with the fact. I just want to know where it came from. So for a minute, I was really angry with my parents. Like, I was mad at them. And I think I was mad because I didn't know how I got it. I didn't know anybody else in the family who was dealing with it. I felt alone. I felt, like, y'all did this to me and you're not even gonna try to help me. I can't come to you for support because you want to act like it don't exist. Like, of course, my adopted mother, was doing everything that she could, but I couldn't blame you because you didn't give it to me. Me and you don't share the same DNA. I'm trying to blame the people, and I know it don't make no sense. I've come to terms with this, but when it first happened, I was just so overwhelmed. And then going to my mother, and she didn't want to help me. I was messed up for a minute. Like, I really was. Like, I'm still messed up. I'm still messed up because I feel like I haven't received the, like, assistance from doctors that I should. And I'm at Kaiser now. I'm not even at the same facility that I used to be in where I did get more help. I'm at a hospital now that refuses to treat people with sickle cell trait. So they were like, okay, well, we need to see your medical records from the other hospital that you went to see what this specialist was talking about, because it don't sound like what he was saying makes any sense. So basically now I'm back at square one because the particular hospital that I go to now has the belief that people with sickle cell trait ain't got no problems. So it's been a roller coaster. I mean, at one point, they had sent me to Children's Hospital in Oakland to be examined by a hematologist there because he was supposed to be like one of the top hematologists in the Bay Area for sickle cell, and he only treats children at the hospital, but they were able to take my blood, and he looked at it and he agreed with the doctor that said that, it was a 50-50 split, but he said he didn't think that I should be having um, pain crisis, and he felt like my pain was related to the arthritis. So from age 40 something to where I am now at 55, it has just been a roller coaster with sickle cell. I have not gotten a definitive diagnosis other than the fact that I have sickle cell trait and chronic anemia. So they do say I have chronic anemia with the inability to build or maintain my own iron, which is directly related to sickle cell. Other than that, the pain crisis, they are still trying to blame on fibromyalgia and osteoarthritis and psoriatic arthritis. So here we are. And I just felt like if my first name was Becky or Emma or Karen, I would have more of a definitive diagnosis because the doctors would care enough to really dig deep into my medical records to find out what it is. But they won't do it. So that's where we are. I have it. Uh, it's definitely not being maintained. Just like I went to the hospital the other day and they took my blood and didn't even give me no results or nothing. Released me from the hospital. I went on the portal for the for my hospital to look at the results because I was trying to see, is my blood low or, what's going on. The results are not there. But the doctor, my regular doctor, my primary care physician did call today. And so I have a telephone appointment with him Monday. So I will at least get an opportunity to be like, hey, what's going on with my blood? You guys haven't checked my hemoglobin. I can be walking around here with super low hemoglobin and not know it because I've been super duper tired. Like the slightest thing will wear me out to the point where, like I have to lay down and rest or whatever. And that's just a classic sign of, anemia. But you think they care enough to be like, hey, why don't you come in so we can? No, they don't care. And I know a lot of it is because of COVID, because before, COVID happened, I was at least getting my blood checked like every 6 weeks or whatever because of my thyroid. So, um, that's it. If you have any questions, you can ask me. But please, if someone says that they have sickle cell, if someone says that they have any type of disease, please pray for them because it's not an easy road. And I really do believe that, my autoimmune disease and the sickle cell and all of this stuff is just directly related to each other. You know, it's a genetic disorder. So I came into this world fighting 4 pounds and 8 ounces. I came into this world fighting. And it's been 55 years and I'm still here. So if you have any questions, you can ask me now. You can ask me any questions. If you see someone with sickle cell on their, timeline, support them. Because black folks, we just out here, ain't nobody taking care of us but us. And I shouldn't have to do research on, the disease. When I go to the doctor should be willing to tell me what is going on. Not just say, oh, you're going to be all right. And then 2 or 3 years later, I start having, complications and needing blood transfusions and iron transfusions and all of this kind of stuff. And the iron transfusion, that was the worst thing in the world, because the whole time you getting the infusion, it tastes like you got a mouthful of pennies. It just feel like somebody just put a whole bunch of pennies in your mouth. That it was just, it was like you could taste the iron. And I had to have 3 infusions. And then after the infusions, I had to have 3 injections in my belly, one for 3 weeks. So one shot a week in my belly, so to help my body to absorb the iron. I think that was worse the um than an infusion. It was horrible. Are there any foods that you have to avoid or eat more of with sickle cell? Which ones? How about alcohol consumption? There's not any foods, I don't think. I don't think there's a diet for um, sickle cell. I think you can eat whatever you want. I think unless you're having like um, pneumonia and stuff, I think they tell you to stay away from things that cause a lot of mucus. There are people who, are trying to do things more holistically, like doing more of the vegan diet, but there's nothing that will take this disease away. There's no cure for this disease because it is written into your DNA. It is a genetic disease. So you are born a carrier. So there's nothing you can eat. There's nothing so far that you can take. Like, no, there are medications, and the medications are similar to chemo. It is kind of similar to the drugs that they give you for lupus and autoimmune disease. It's a drug that is in the same class as chemotherapy. It's just on a much lower dosage. Now, people are trying these drugs. There are people on these drugs. Also, you can get a stem cell transplant. They say that's the only cure. It does not work for everybody, and you normally have to get it from one of your siblings or somebody in your family that match you. So, I mean, that's kind of like up in the air too. But I have seen some people that, go through it. It's the same thing that they give people for like leukemia or whatever. The stem cell transplant is the same thing. So, um, like that wouldn't be an option for me because I just have the trait. But for someone that is extremely sick with the disease, that would be an option for them if they have someone that is a match for them. Like I was following one young lady on Instagram, and her sibling was a match for her. And it's basically the same thing. Like you go into the hospital, and it's kind of like, some type of chemo that you go through to, kill everything. Like her hair fell out, the whole 9 yards, just like chemo. And then you stay in the hospital. I think you have to stay in the hospital for like 30 days or whatever. And then you get out, and I think you have to, I don't know if you go through radiation. I think you just go through the chemotherapy portion. And then, you pray that it takes. So there is no cure other than a stem cell transplant. The medication does help with the pain crisis and other things that come with the disease, but um there's just no, like you take one pill a day and you're going to be fine. No, it's not like that. There's no cure for this. If you have it this disease is coded into your DNA. Your body um, is hardwired for sickle cell. You're only going to, if you have the full disease, you're only going to make so many blood cells a month, and the ones that you make, the majority of them will be damaged. And so, what it is like the arteries are like that, like a circle. Normal blood cells just flow. Oh, okay, that's a bad example. But we're going to do this anyway, okay? Normal blood cells are just able to just flow through, because they're a circle and they just fit through. Like, my finger is round, and it's easy for a round object to go into a round hole. With sickle cell, the the hemoglobin breaks off because they're damaged. And then they're like, they get to the artery, and it's just like, some of them will, make it through because some of them are like they're supposed to be. And then you have the ones that are broken, and then they'll bunch up in the artery and cause the artery to kind of like flare up right there. And, then the nerves are like, what's going on? What's happening right there? And then they start firing off, which causes pain. Now, if that happens in the brain, near the brain, around the brain, up in here, anywhere, that can cause a stroke. In your heart, that can cause a heart attack. In your kidneys, that can cause kidney failure. Now, I do have polyps on one of my kidneys. They're non cancerous, but they're polyps nonetheless. They feel are directly related to sickle cell. A lot of people with sickle cell have problems with their kidneys, they have problems with their hearts, they have just problems with organs because the blood is constantly flowing all through your body. And if blood is getting to certain areas and bunching up and cells dying, then you gonna have problems. So this is a horrible disease. Horrible. There are a lot of people in Africa because, the African population in certain areas is predominantly black. There are a lot of people, and they don't have the same level of medical treatment that we have here in the US. I'm not saying that the US is perfect, but of course it is better than other countries. And so, when I see pictures of people in Africa who have sickle cell, a lot of them have deformed limbs, and because for one, their nutrition is not like ours. They're just not, the hospitals and stuff are just not like ours. And so it's like they are in a worse position than we are here. The population of people with sickle cell in Africa is extremely high. Now, when your baby is born, your baby is tested for sickle cell at birth. You get that test result, you get the test results before you leave the hospital, so that your baby won't have to go through what I went through, not even knowing that I had the disease until I was in my 20s. My children were tested before they left the hospital. We knew right away that neither one of them had the trait. I'm really praying that, I know none of my grandkids have it. So I'm praying that, they won't get with someone in the future that has it. So you have to be careful. You have to, inform your children that they need to know the status, not just the HIV status of the person that they're having sex with, but they need to know the sickle cell status of the person that they're having sex with. Because if they have sex with someone that has sickle cell, there's a chance that they will bring a baby into this world that has the disease. It's very serious. And you don't want that. You don't want to have a child that is sick, especially not with this disease, because it's so painful. And there's so many other things that this disease can affect. You don't want to deal with that. You don't want your child to have a stroke. You don't want your child to have a heart attack. You don't want your child to have pneumonia. You don't want your child to be on dialysis. And it seems like, when I'm having, like this morning, I had migraine. I woke up, my head was hurting. I had a migraine. And it just seems like sometimes when, the slightest thing or the slightest pain I have it just seems like it just jars my body. Like sometimes I have pain so bad that my body shakes. Like I will run a fever, like a fever will spike. And the doctor said that's my body's way of trying to throw some of that pain off. I'll have just a spike of a fever will just go up to like 100 just to kind of throw my body off for a minute, because it'll, I'll have these pain episodes where I'm hurting so bad that I'm just shaking uncontrollably, and then it'll just go away. So I couldn't even imagine, from just the little glimpses that I have, what people with the full blown disease go through. Because I was at the hospital one time and it was a young man. He had to have been like in his 20s. Now this goes to show you how doggish medical professionals are. This young man was in the waiting room. He had been triaged. There is a sickle cell protocol that hospitals are supposed to follow. If they get a sickle cell patient in, they're supposed to give them pain meds while they're waiting to be called back into the emergency area. They will not give this young man any pain medication. Of course, he was black, and he was on the floor crying in pain. On the floor. And the nurses were just ignoring him. That's how we get treated. On the floor crying in pain. They didn't give him anything. This has happened to me before. I went to emergency having an asthma attack, and they will triage me and tell me to wait when I know that hospitals have a asthma protocol. You are never supposed to let a asthma patient wait. You're supposed to bring them to the back and start them on medicine. And I had to tell the nurse, so I have asthma and you're telling me I have to wait? I know this hospital has a asthma protocol because you have an asthma lounge. I have been there before. So can I speak to the head nurse? Oh, okay, come on back, Miss Brown. Oh, okay, I thought so. It's ridiculous that we even have black people even are treated like dirt at hospitals. And y'all be like, I don't know why she's so angry. Am I losing my eyelash? Is my eyelash? Wait a minute, y'all. Oh no, it's still on. I'm angry because of everything that I have been through. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed in people, because you look at my skin, the color of my skin, and determine how you're going to treat me medically. Like, I'm sick, dude. And you don't even have compassion for me when I'm sick. So when I don't show up, you guys, and when I tell you that I'm not feeling well or I'm tired, or, some days when I may be grumpy or whatever, it may be because I'm not managing my pain well, or I'm tired, or I have a headache, or my blood is low, or something. So, cut me a break. Like, give me a little extra. Hey, girl, we love you. Yeah, take a break on motion. We'll see you tomorrow, girl. Don't worry about coming in today. Because, God, dog, I done been through it. So, I do deserve better. We all do. We do. I don't just, I don't, and that's the thing. I think that's why, I would be so mad at my mom because I was like, I don't deserve this. This your fault. You should have knew you had this shit before you had sex. I was hot. But I have to look at the fact that my mother was 17 years old when she had me. She was a high school student. My mother was in high school. My mother hid the fact that she was pregnant until she graduated from high school. So, my mom's senior year, I was in her belly and she wasn't telling nobody. She was running track and everything. That's probably why I was so small. No one knew my mom was pregnant until after she graduated from high school. So she graduated in June and I was born in August. Probably why I was so tiny because, you know, like I was sickly, a little sick baby. My family would tease me. It was like the biggest thing on you was your head. The rest of your body was super little. They put me in the dresser drawer because my mom couldn't, she was a high school senior. She couldn't afford like cribs and, all the little accoutrements that you have for your baby. They put me in the top dresser drawer, put some blankets in there and stuff and put me in the dresser drawer. That was my crib because I was tiny anyway. So I'm in the dresser drawer. I couldn't imagine. I can't even imagine putting my baby in a dresser drawer. I mean, I family wasn't the only family that did that. I know that was a thing in the 60s. We buffering, y'all. It is kind of windy. That was a thing in the 60s. So I was a dresser drawer baby. So, oh well, you can catch it. Oh God, this flash. You can catch it, Reese, because I'm going to. No, she was not going to any prenatal appointments. I survived with no prenatal care. But there were a lot of women that weren't not going to prenatal appointments back then, Moth Mama. This is the 60s, sweetie. They I'm pretty sure white women was probably going to prenatal appointments and maybe some black women that, had money. My family was poor. Plus my mama didn't want nobody to know she was pregnant. She was in high school. So she wasn't going to no prenatal appointments probably until after she got out of school and after she graduated and they realized she was pregnant. They probably took her to the doctor then. But before that, no. They said my mama was running track and everything and was pregnant with me. That's probably why I was only 4 pounds and 8 ounces. So, um, that was that. But I'm here. I have been through a lot. I'm still going through, but I'm here. I'm here. Um, I'm basically in one of those like healthy um periods. I'm on my medicine. I'm not really managing my medicine as my pain as well as I would like, but I am going to talk to the doctor about that Monday, and maybe I can start another pain medication. Yeah, a lot of people had babies in high school. Maybe I can um, start another pain medication and try to. you know, at least get my pain under control, because I don't think right now it is under control, because um, my hips and stuff have been acting up. And I think that's one thing that people with sickle cell like have, like hip replacements. It's something that goes on in the hip joint. I can't think of the name of it, but it's something. And I'm just praying to God I don't get whatever that is, because I ain't trying to have no hip um replacement. But I'm still a happy person, you know. I have I don't think I look like what I've been through. I done been through a lot, and I don't, you know, think I look like what I've been through. I don't think you can look at me and tell that I've been through half of the things that I've been through. I look at myself and can't believe that I had two strokes, and I'm still this strong and, this healthy, because I've seen people, who have had strokes. I know what a stroke can do to you. One of my friends that I used to work with, she had a stroke and she's still in a wheelchair. And that had to have been 10 years ago. She has regained a lot of her upper body strength, but not her lower body. So I know how bad a stroke can be. And I do thank God every day that um, that part didn't happen. And that was one of the most scary um, situations that I've ever been in, for a doctor to tell you, um, we believe you've had a stroke. And I was like, what? Because I thought when you had a stroke, I don't know, child. I thought, all that, but it wasn't like that. Like I was still able to talk. I was still able to, understand what the doctor was saying. But what happened was, I was telling the doctor that, oh, I had called the advice nurse and told her that I was having this weird feeling on the left side. And, I was explaining it to her and stuff, and she was like, we think that you may need to come in. Is it, can you come in so, we can check you? And I was like, yeah, I can come in. She was like, can you have somebody drive you? And at the time, I didn't know how serious it was, because the advice nurse wasn't, I don't know if she wasn't trying to scare me, or, she didn't want to say stroke or whatever. But child, I didn't had a stroke and drove myself to the hospital. The first one. I drove myself to the hospital. This just shows you how good God is. I drove myself to the hospital not knowing I was having a stroke. When I got in that emergency room and I was, telling the doctor what was going on, honey, he immediately initiated stroke protocol. And it just seemed like nurses and doctors came out it was like they was roaches. The nurses and doctors just came out the woodwork. They immediately sent me for a CT scan, because they put you on the clock. When they initiate stroke protocol, they put you on a clock. It's a timer that they hit, because they have to get a CT scan and get some type of medication in you, within a certain period of time, because if not, your brain can be damaged. So I immediately went to CT, and when they got the results back, I had had a stroke, and that was the scariest thing. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I didn't. If I shit line, I like I did. I didn't know. I didn't have a stroke. They were like, yes, you. And I wasn't married at the time. You know, my kids were teenagers, and I was just scared to death. The good thing is, I had some good friends. Um, I was still going to church at the time. My pastor came to the hospital, and I was in the hospital over a week. Over a week the first time, almost 2 weeks. And then um, they told me then, um, you can have another one. People that have TIAs, the mild stroke is called a TIA, you can have another one. 3 years later, I had another one. 3 or 4, no, it was more than that. It was more than that because me and my husband were together. We weren't married yet, but we were together. And I had another one. And it it felt like the first one. I immediately called um, the advice nurse, and my husband got me to the hospital. As soon as I got to the hospital, they already knew I was coming. It was in my record that I had had a TIA before. They do the same thing, start the clock. Um, Doctors, nurses, uh, not physical therapists, but it's something because they want you to read. They want to see if you can read. They want to see. They give you like these pictures. They want you to put them in sequence. It's like the lady go in the kitchen, wash the dishes, dry the dish. It's something you gotta kind of put it in order. They want to see how your brain and stuff is functioning. I went down to CT, had a stroke. So, of course, they keep you in the hospital. You're admitted, uh, taken up to the stroke uh, area of the hospital, and you're given blood work, CT scans every day. You're in the hospital. I had an MRI the next day, I think. I think I had an MRI the next day, and CT scans, blood work the entire time you're in the hospital, making sure that there's no damage and there's no clot. Because if it's a clot, they want to, break it up. So there was no damage, no arteries damaged. They have to do like ultrasound on the arteries that go up into the brain, through the neck, up into the brain. So they do an ultrasound on both sides that, go all the way up here with the ultrasound machine, just like they do with the belly, but they're rubbing it real hard on these arteries here that go into the brain, and then they do a CT scan and MRI. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, sweetie, thanks for stopping by. So that's my story. That's what I have endured with sickle cell. It's been a roller coaster of a ride. And I know, like, everybody with this disease, their ride has been different. Some people rode this disease all the way to glory. Their bodies just couldn't withstand um, the ravages of this disease, and they passed away. The young lady that I went to high school with, um, I think she passed away like in her 20s, because it was like after we graduated from high school. But she had been sick all her life, all her life. And she back in the day, they said that normally people with sickle cell only live to their 20s or 30s. Because they, for one, didn't know how to treat it. For two, like a lot of older black people with sickle cell, they just weren't being treated. Because back in the 40s and 30s and 20s and 30s and 40s, we weren't even going to regular hospitals. So getting seen by hematologists, what? We don't see no niggers here. No. So if they would get sick, it was just bad. And it really ain't a whole lot better now. We get treated, but we don't get the same treatment that other people get. And it's not just with this disease, it's with a lot of diseases. So happy Juneteenth, but are we really free? You know, until we start to get treated the same way that white people are treated when we go to hospitals, treated the same way that white people are treated when they get pulled over by the police, we're not free. We free ish. But happy Juneteenth. You had a cousin. Today is actually the death of a cousin that passed from it in her early 20s, I believe. Um, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people that, pass away in their early 20s. I belong to this, I used to belong to a Facebook group, um, and it was the cutest little girl on there that, her mom would post pictures of her. And you just don't want to see a child suffering. And the little girl had the baby had full blown sickle cell. And I just couldn't watch, I just didn't want to see videos. And of course the mother is showing, what the child is going through. But it's, watching her, it was hard. It was hard to watch a baby in pain, sick, in the hospital, having to have medical treatments and stuff. It was hard to watch her. Yeah, all of these countries are the same when it comes to immigrants. I don't know. It's weird to me that people, can see somebody suffering and just don't care about them because of the color of their skin. Like if I see somebody getting hurt, even if I see a white person get hurt, I'm gonna do what I can to help them. I'm not just gonna, kick them to the curb. You hurt, you bleeding. I'm gonna try to take care of you. I'm gonna do something. If I can't help you, at least I'm gonna like call an ambulance or, call somebody to help you. And I want to say this. Um, I watch a lot of people here on YouTube. A lot of people that don't do anything on YouTube but sit up and fuss and fight with each other, like Sean Bradley, James Caldwell, Five A, Rick Reed. Um, who else is in there? All of the Nicole Tyler, all of these people who sit up and argue and fight with each other all the time. Imagine what we could all do if we supported each other. Jay Wilson, if we put that much energy into supporting each other as we do calling each other a bunch of female dogs and F bombs and all of this kind of stuff, we will be so much better off. So much better off. Like sometimes it really hurts me to see people on here like fighting each other and everything. Like I really think that Rick Reed is one of the funniest people on YouTube. And I think his accent that is really funny to me in the way he says certain words. But then I have to really look at it and be like, okay, this man is really on here cussing out women and, calling them H's and B's and everything. And I have to like check myself. Like, why is this funny? And I know he only does it to women that fight him. He's not one of the men on YouTube that, just like pokes people for no reason. Like he will go after women that go after him. But still, when are we going to stop fighting each other, especially in this little small sector of YouTube? If we could just support each other's content. Look, it's what, 15 people over here? 15 people here. If I was talking about fighting somebody and getting drunk and getting turned up and smoking weed and acting stupid, this chat would be full of people. But because I'm talking about something real, about real life, about something that is happening with Black people, about something that I may need support around, is 15 people here. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. That's just an observation. I just have to throw that in there. Okay. So I don't know. I wish we would change and support each other more and lift each other up more and look at each other as humans and not, I don't know. I don't know how we look at each other. I don't know how we can look at each other and not see that we're not human and that we have feelings and everybody is going through something and stop fighting each other every day. Because how do we expect other people to stop fighting us if we continue to fight each other? Like we can't even lift each other up and care about each other and hug each other and rally around each other. Like I posted that I was going to be talking about sickle cell. Ain't nobody show up. Duh. Hey Kingston, Black Lives Matter. Ain't nobody show up. Don't nobody want to hear that old woman talking about sickle cell. I don't care. I ain't got it. Her mama shouldn't have gave it to her. But I'm supposed to be your sister, right? The world is a scary place. The world has always been a scary place for black people. It ain't just becoming a scary place. It's always been a scary place. We live in a state of fear. We always have and always will. I'm scared every time I go to the doctor. Are these people going to listen to me? Are they going to have compassion? Are they going to ask me some stupid ass questions like, do you smoke weed? Have you ever been addicted to cocaine? It's always been a scary place for us. And it ain't getting no better. Not at all. I mean, just put you in a point where you don't even want to go to the doctor. You know what I mean? You know you have to, but you don't want to. I did at least have a few friends that, reposted the memes that I posted on social media on my Facebook. I had nobody share it on Instagram. I don't think. But if I was posting a meme for shaking your ass or something like that, they would have shared it. But I can't fault people because they just don't understand. If it don't affect them, then it's not important. That's your problem. But it shouldn't be like that. It should be everybody's problem. We should all love each other and be concerned, especially when we know that this is one of those diseases that mostly affects African American people. Like, we don't have a Susan B. Coleman for sickle cell. There's no large corporations that are funding sickle cell like they're funding breast cancer and ALS and all of these other diseases that primarily affect white people. We don't have that. So if I tell you guys that it is um, sickle cell awareness day, and I think sickle cell month is in September. So we're gonna do this again in September. if I tell you guys that it is Sickle Cell Awareness Day, it is the day that we bring awareness to, this disease. So I ask you guys to please share this on your. Oh, thank you, Kay. Do you follow me on Instagram? Who are you on Instagram, girl? I don't know who you are. Do I follow you on Instagram? If you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. I am on Instagram. I do follow everybody back on Instagram. Um, no, I ain't gonna lie. I don't follow everybody back. But if I know you, if you tell me who you, I'll follow you back. But I do accept everybody. But I don't follow everybody back because I don't know some of y'all. But if you tell me that you're so and so from YouTube, then I'll follow you back. Follow me on Instagram and um, share the memes that I posted because I did post a few of them on Instagram. I'll probably post a few more on my community wall. And that's it. That's all I got. I really didn't want to talk about anything other than sickle cell on this live. Um, so if I think of something else that I want to talk about later, I may come back later. And I might, since I got these eyelashes on, I might come back and do a video on these eyelashes. Since I do have them on, this will be a good time to do a review on them, and I can um, talk about them. And if I show them on my other camera, they'll probably come in better because you can't really see them. You can see them now, but these are super cute. This is a horrible camera. This is a Chromebook. I do not like the camera. I may have to just purchase um another camera to put on this Chromebook because I do not like this camera. And I'm telling you, these eyelashes are the bomb. Okay. And they're probably going to look better on my phone camera than they look on this camera. So I might do that. I might get off here and just immediately film the review for these eyelashes while I have them on, and then that'll be it for the day. I can relax. Thank you, Michelle. She said the makeup, hair, earrings all look wonderful. Thank you. I actually have on Mitch Mac earrings, and it drives my grandson crazy when I wear them because one is purple and the other one is blue. And I don't know why I started doing that because they both do have matches, but I don't like to wear them matching. And so every time I wear these earrings around my grandson, he is 8. Yeah, he'll be 9 this year. Granny, your earrings don't match. I'm like, I know, sweetheart. And he'll look at me like, they're different colors. They are. Weirdo. I know he'd be like, Granny, weird. Weird. I like him different. I like he. All right, y'all. I'm going to go fix me a bowl of cereal. Sir. Well, I'm going to go make this video and then fix me a bowl of cereal and hopefully take me a nap. And that's going to be it. Because I woke up super early this morning. I woke up at like 7 o'clock for what? I have no idea. And then my husband woke up And we just got up after that. So I'm going to take me a nap. Because I know in a couple of hours, well, he probably won't be back for like 4 hours. He'll probably be back around 7. He'll be back here for lunch. And I want to take a nap before he get here. Okay, you guys. I love you. I appreciate you. Come here, Gizmo. Come here. Come here. Gizmo, come here. Come here. Gizmo. Man. Come here. Come get your baby. Oh, he coming. Come on. Come here. Come here. Come say goodbye. Come on. I got both of your babies. I'm gonna throw your babies out the window. Come here. Come get it. I'm gonna throw your children out the window if you don't come. Come here. You don't care about your kids? He don't care. That's the type of dog he is. My dog started barking. You did that with the toy. I was watching someone's video and their smoke detector went off in the video and Gizmo had a fit. I was like, really? Yeah, I will throw your baby out the window. I will. No, because there's a screen on the window. I couldn't throw the baby out the window if I wanted to. Because it's a screen on the window. He didn't care. He was like, I don't care. I got like 50, 11 dozen other toys. Throw the baby out the window. Who cares? When I go outside, I'll just get it. He did not move. He is laying down. He is comfortable. He don't care. Summer solstice, Saturday, 20th of June, and new moon, Sunday, June the 21st. And it's going to be eclipse with a ring of fire where the moon passes the sun, and I guess the moon is smaller than the sun, so you're still going to be able to see the outline of the sun, but the darkness of the moon inside it, if that makes any sense. And they call that the ring of fire. So this is going to be a interesting weekend, but we'll talk about that tomorrow maybe, because stuff is still not open here in the Bay Area, like the movies and stuff. The malls are open, but not the movies. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much for the people that have supported me and are sharing sharing the memes about sickle cell and supporting me through this journey. I appreciate you guys so much. If you would like, you can share this video after it is uploaded, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.